You're still watching TVC Breakfast. We're now about to go into a very, very important conversation. Now, in a bid to foster community development and empower local initiative, experts are highlighting the importance of grassroots prosperity. Now, according to professionals, investing in local communities is key to unlocking sustainable growth and development. From infrastructure development to education and entrepreneurship support, professionals are urging stakeholders to prioritize grassroots initiatives. Joining us in the studio for this conversation is Lead Initiatives to Drive Prosperity. He is a British-Nigerian chartered accountant and thought leader, Olarenwaju Sharafa. Good morning, Olarenwaju. How are you doing?
Good morning.
I see that it's a packed morning for you. You're ready for us.
Well,
okay.
Perhaps you don't know, Ria, this is not my first time here at TVC. Good morning, Biodo.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Olamide. It's always nice to be at TVC and perhaps to look at some of these important topics with you. So let's get into it.
All right. So let's get into grassroots prosperity. Oftentimes, you know, a lot of people have said that a lot of Nigerians work really hard, but at the end of the day, they tend to still be poor. What support are given to these Nigerians as well? They say it's so difficult for them. And that's why oftentimes you see, they say Nigerian youths are lazy, but these youths will tell you that we keep working, but the conditions are not even easy for us. We talk about loans. There was a point where you take a loan, they will start putting your picture if you cannot pay. You know, people started killing themselves. Like a lot of things were happening. We're asking in terms of education, you know, in terms of infrastructure, how are we helping people on the grassroots? Okay,
cool. The topic that we're asked to look into, just like you started off, is grassroots prosperity, a call to action. Now, there are key priorities which we all need to commit ourselves to so we can see this prosperity moving from levels to levels, and that includes ensuring that we are committed to zero poverty. We must also commit ourselves to zero hunger. We have to also commit ourselves to quality education. And of course, it is important to look after the good health and well-being of one another. Now, coming back to the topic of opportunity for the youth. Now, this is where the role of small businesses, companies come into play, i.e. how organizations are set up to provide to provide employment for the youth. Now, if the youth can get into employment, it means that, you know, they can put food on the table for themselves and, of course, support themselves to drive, you know, the grassroots and community that we are looking for. Now, speaking about the issue of poverty within the grassroots. Oftentimes people think it's just the responsibility of the government, but beyond the government responsibility, we also need to ask ourselves, how much are we committed to, you know, ensuring, providing that support for one another? And I think that's where the media are playing a huge role, thanks to TVC, the advocacy that you do, and making sure that you can project topics like this to your audience.
All right, Mr. Showman.
If you take into consideration the growing problem we're having with substance use in the country, particularly with the youths, which is eventually creating major problem. You have less youths willing to go into agriculture. We have people who are wandering the streets, not knowing what to do from day to day. Then you have a high growing social vices and all that. What do you think, or how do you think we can address these problems, you know, with a view to deal with the lethargy arising from social vices, you know, youth's unwillingness to go into agriculture, and then solve some of the challenges we're faced with, particularly on food production?
Thank you, Biodo. I was listening to, you know, one of the experts a few minutes while I was preparing or coming for this interview, and the expert was saying something around what's on the table, what's on the plate. You see what I mean? I think we need to engage our youth, and we need to embed the culture of what is on the plate with our youth, i.e., you know, asking the question that, what do you really want to achieve with your life? Do you want to come to this life and misuse your life with the substance, or do you want to have a role to play, you know? And luckily enough, I think the youth are finding places in entertainment, they are finding places in, you know, social media, content creation, and that's, you know, driving a change within the grassroots or among the youth, and helping them to then know how they can play, commit some role in the society. And that thanks to a lot of guys in the entertainment industry who are using entertainment as a strategy to bring the youth back on track. I know family member who told me that he doesn't want to go to school and he just want to sing. So, you know, I mean...
But education is quite important too as
very
well.
key.
We cannot take that out of
We
it.
can't.
You can be a great musician, but school is very important.
It's very key. It's very key, and I say that a lot.
Absolutely. Mr. Sharafa, the concept of grassroots prosperity sounds great, right? Some might even argue a bit idealistic, but you said grassroots prosperity, a call to action, and I like that. Based on your knowledge as a standard chartered accountant, I believe, what is one financial reform that you think that the government, or even indeed us as individuals, can put into place in the next 12 months, not 5 years, that will see a drastic improvement in the quality of lives of families, households, individuals at the grassroots level? Because oftentimes money doesn't trickle down in measurable and livable ways for those at the grassroots.
So I think it's all about putting up policies that are inclusive in nature. And, you know, when we say policies that are inclusive, we're talking about the role of government in putting ideas, initiatives. And in fact, what government are not even doing also counts as policies. And it's about being inclusive, how they sort of, you know, roll out policies and support, you know, the public. So we're talking about the decision the government will make to ensure that everyone is carried along, no one is left behind, and I think this is very important.
Fantastic. Very beautiful. Yeah. I'm happy we're talking about this, and we're talking grassroots, and I'm about to go grassroots with this question I'm asking now. You know, oftentimes we say that, are we giving these people businesses to do? I want to talk about, you know, small businesses, you know, helping people in rural areas, you know, in terms of education, in terms of starting something that will make them have money. Because oftentimes these people are really, really suffering in the grassroots. Like local governments, what are they doing? The government itself, what are they doing? I really believe in that. Do not give me you know, fish. Show me where to fish. Let me be able to do it myself. So in terms of helping these people, equipping them with something that will make them financially stable, what are we doing? I hope it's not just talk. We're having these conversations and it just goes down the drain, because this is not the first time we have conversations like this and nothing happens. Yeah.
You know, speaking about what we should expect from, you know, support for SMEs and how the SME support should happen. There are different actors when we talk about support for SMEs. There's the role the government will play, there's the role businesses will play, and of course, there is the role we ourselves will have to play. Now, let's look at the role of the business. Businesses need to align their strategy to sort of meet these grassroots aspirations. We're talking about financial institutions, banks. We want them to align, or we suggest, or we are expecting that they should align their strategy so that it can help to meet this grassroots initiative, i.e. decide on your policies on loan. The founder of microfinance, Professor Mohamed Yunus, came back from the United States and started to lend people as low as $27. And that drives the history of microfinance. Yeah. So we're saying that banks should obviously align their strategy such that it enables, you know, SMEs, it supports growth within the community.
Yeah. Sure.
So I like the fact that you refer to Yunus. I mean, based on the experience of Bangladesh, you know, which became a miracle. For me, I think we should go along that path. But what about the role? I understand the issue. You've made very important contributions, submissions on the role of government and the private sector, which is to create jobs. What about the role of advocacy? Because it's one thing to create those jobs, and it's another thing to change the orientation, you know, of some of our youths in the rural areas or in the grassroots local government areas who actually think the only solution to their problem is to japa, that is to leave the country. They can't even engage with the developments going on in their local communities. And what do you expect government to do or the private sector to do if they create the jobs and they can't get the guys to do the job? So what do you think, how can advocacy, you know, help to change the orientation of our youth? I know we have National Orientation Agency, but at the grassroots level.
I think to start with, Biodun, let me use that opportunity to pay a huge tribute to you guys here at TVC. And I think this is one of where I started from today, which is, of course, providing advocacy, campaigning, making this known to the public. And beyond the role of TVC, you also have other medias, such as the social medias, advocacy via the print medias. And I think I was looking at Professor Yemi Osinbajo's, the former vice president, talk on sustainable development evaluation before I came here. And, I saw a high-level conversation an initiative put together at the federal level which articulate grassroots, i.e. how SDG is being achieved and all of that. And one question I ask myself is that, do we feel this same information? How do we crystallize? How do we demystify this information to the grassroots? Now, the question is, while Professor Yemi was speaking, he spoke nicely of the role of the SA on SDG, which is, I can't remember her name now. And my question is this: if we have an SA on SDG at the federal level, what about the role of SA at the local level?
At the state level.
Do we have an SA to the local government chairman on SDG? Do we have an SA to the state governor on SDG? Now, if the same information we have at this federal level, which was Orelokwe Adefuleri, I just remember her name now. So if we can hear an incredible work done by the SA on SDG to the president at the federal level, then what is the local government level doing? What is the state government level doing? So we need to have an appreciation of all of this, and we need to, ensure that we bring all of this initiative to the grassroots.
You're talking about distillation process, which is brilliant. Some people might not know what the SDG means. That's Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Sharafa. Mr. Abiodun can come. He's very, very passionate about the grassroots. He can take this interview by himself for 2 hours if you let him. But I will say this. It sounds very great, like I said earlier on, when we talk about grassroots prosperity. But who are the grassroots? Because Nigeria has a declining middle class. We have a declining middle class. We have a declining, even lower middle class. Everybody is being relegated into a certain baseline level of survival. Who are the grassroots? What do they look like? And what does grassroots prosperity mean for the average individual? The girl that is going to school, the farmer in the farm, the Okada man. Illuminate us on this concept of grassroots. Okay, now this is a very good question. I think it's one of the places we should have started from. Now, who are the grassroots? The grassroots is the market men and women, is the artisan, is the farmer, is your organizer, is the man on the street who is selling, is the disabled people. These are the people we said government should not they shouldn't be left behind. And it's not only about government leaving anyone behind. It should be our collective responsibility, making sure that no one is left behind. The man who runs his business must align his business strategy to ensure that no one is left behind. And that's the humanitarian, and that's the business which is set up for good purpose. And of course, individuals on the street should look out for one another, making sure that we play a role as a good citizen and as a global citizen, ensuring that we look after one another. And of course, the aspiration of that grassroots is the intent with which we live our life on a daily basis. And government must initiate policies, programs, initiatives that support grassroots to thrive, to prosper, and to succeed.
When you just spoke about this, it made me remember one story. A man that was selling meat in the market, okay? You've just said that those are the grassroots, but I tell you that man used that meat to build about 3 houses. So at one point, does somebody leave grassroots? No, I want to know, because some people in the market are very wealthy. Some of those people selling in the market, I'm using this meat seller because I used to buy meat from him. When he showed me the pictures of the things he has, I was wondering why he's still selling meat here. So we also need to differentiate from, not everybody in the market is actually grassroots. Am I correct on that?
So the whole idea of grassroots is not necessarily looking at the market person. We're looking at it from the scope of the federal, the state, and the local. Okay. That's the point. So when you look at, the actors in an economy, you look at both the government and the private sector. Okay. So, and of course, the third sector, which is the NGO. But from the lenses of governmental responsibility or how government should be accountable to people, we say government will be accountable via the federal, the state, and the local. So we refer to the local government level to the grassroots.
Okay, let me take you on this quickly. You've spoken about this so passionately, but if you were given the power, what are the 3 things you think you would do first for the grassroots? 3 things precisely that you think, and I want you to give me them in order. You know, what's going to be the first, the second, and the third if you were given that power.
Number 1 is inclusive opportunity, like leaving no one behind. It's important that government policies, programs, initiative, and agenda ensure that no one is left behind. That's number 1.
Okay.
Number 2 is legislative provisions or legislative ideas that drives grassroots prosperity. Okay. There is no way you speak about governance without the role of the legislature. Yeah. So legislatures must drive initiatives or must put forward ideas that will translate into law that drives prosperity. And the last is ensuring strong commitment to the SDG key priorities. For example, go 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are the 3 important things to ensure.
And I thought you say 4 because you add just one more, because oftentimes we've heard that politicians use these people in the grassroots, you know, for when they need them, and after that, you know, we don't see them there again. You see them maybe during elections, they are supplying things to them because they want something, and after that, we don't see anything again. So I think that we should also speak on that. Don't you think that should even be the first thing?
No, I think I agree with you, Ria. People should not be seen as electioneering mechanism. They should rather be seen as citizens. They should rather be seen as somebody that requires support, rather than that requires that government is accountable to, rather than seeing people as electionary mechanism, in which case you just go to them to make promises when election is coming.
You never keep the promise.
I know that you are a reputable and distinguished chartered accountant. Now, I'm beginning to reflect on your submission, particularly on your definition of grassroots, including organizers, artisans and all that. And then bearing in mind the issues you have just raised around sustainable development goals, being turned into law, by the parliament, and also ensuring inclusiveness, social inclusiveness to make everybody stakeholders within the economy. Now, my question is this: how do you view the impact, or what are likely to be the impact of the new tax reforms in Nigeria, on the grassroots?
So, Biodun, what is tax? Tax or taxation or tax is a compulsory levy that government takes so it can build infrastructure, so it can provide social amenity, so it can look after people. Now, if we're to look at the impact of the taxation or the tax, the new tax act, my expectation as chartered accountant is that we should be looking towards a prosperous Nigeria. Because the whole essence of taxation is that government generates funds to build an economy. So my expectation is that if the tax works, the nation grows. So the impact that you've asked me to talk about is that I am expecting that revenue generated from those taxes will impact life positively, translate to good road, translate to good water, translate to support for the community, translate to empowerment, translate to nation building. That's my expectation.
I agree absolutely with you. I'm actually focusing on that very grassroots. Bearing in mind that we know now that organizers are not the target, artisans are not the target, they are not going to pay any tax. Nobody's going to trouble them over that. And people are low income and will obviously, not be paying any tax if you earn below the national minimum wage. So I'm looking at, even though I agree completely that people will enjoy the benefits, of investment in infrastructure, paid by those people who are taxed. So I'm actually looking at, because of the issue of you raised a very important point on SDG and social inclusion. That's where I'm going actually, to see whether that new tax reforms, which has now come into place from January, would impact on the well-being of the most vulnerable Nigerians, which you have just referred to.
Yeah, you see the brains behind the taxation idea, they are reputable Nigerians and individuals. And in fact, someone I have huge respect for, Taiwo. You know, Taiwo. Taiwo is, you know, a renowned chartered accountant who has worked with, you know, Big Four institution in the past. And I'm sure that the principles of taxation that talks about fairness would have been thought through the entire process of designing the new tax law. So I have huge respect for him, and I believe that those interests of those at the grassroots, which you mentioned, would have been captured nicely in the tax provision.
Absolutely. You know, Mr. Shaw, when we're talking about the possible effects or non-effects of the new tax reform laws on the populace, people at the grassroots level, makes me think that even that leniency on low-income earners and people at the grassroots is a form of social intervention,
fairness.
if you ask me. However, Nigeria, the federal government, has rolled out several social intervention and social development initiatives over the years. What do you think? Why do you think they're not implemented properly? Why do they struggle to scale sustainability? What is the problem at implementing at the grassroots level? Because there's been many social developments and initiatives that have been rolled out.
Very nice question, you know, Olamide. And I think the major problem we have is not the implementation. I think the problem we have is that we don't have KPIs. So when you don't have KPIs, it becomes difficult to measure the success of an initiative. Do you see what I mean? So, I mean, you know, several programs that has been initiated by this government. I know of the cash transfer to the less privileged one and all of that. So these programs are there. They are well implemented. Reputable Nigerians are there. You can't even siphon the fund. The EFCC will come after you. So the implementation, the rollout is not the problem. The problem is KPI. Because if you don't have a KPI, then you cannot measure your performance.
So if we know that, why are we not doing something on that? If we have identified what the problem is, what are we now doing to crop out the problem?
Well, this is where the role of the legislature comes in. The oversight functions will come in to check and to sort of put in place some KPI to check. And I think our legislature need to do more with respect to oversight.
I just want to say quickly before Ria takes over. You seem very empathetic, Mr. Sharafa, and I'm happy that people at the grassroots have somebody like you.
Well, Olamide, you see, I grew up from a very poor background. I know what it means to sort of struggle to get to where I am today. My grandmother trained me from the money she makes from marketing and trade and all of that. So I'm very passionate about people at the grassroots, and I want to see, you know, prosperity move towards that direction we expect.
Just in 5 seconds. It's quite very evidently clear that you've made a very important submission. What about the role of the media? Because what you see is that the media is reporting things as they see it. On the issue of KPI, the media will report it. What about the media actually allowing those who are impacted to actually tell the stories themselves, which is better and more convincing, because at the grassroots level, you know, they understand each other. But rather than reporting that story, when it comes to KPI, that's where I'm going. Let those who have been impacted, who have benefited, actually tell the story themselves. What do you think about that?
I agree with you. I just want to say that I think the media also needs to think about grassroots. I think it's not just enough. It's not just enough, Ria, to sit in your studio and analyze, you know, the nation papers, which is obviously captured by somebody sitting somewhere and doing desk research and all of that. I think it's time for media to also do some initiative at grassroots level, and that could include having clubs at secondary schools, Catch Them Young initiative, and of course propagating, advocating for, you know, some of these initiatives and ideas that drive prosperity.
When you said a call to action, you meant it.
You said go out of your studio. We're looking forward to a lot of great leads from you. I'm sure we'll have you in the studio again, Mr. Sharafa, to talk more about it. I love what you mentioned. Some of us come from nothing, and, you know, we are something now. So it's very important that we get to give back to the grassroots. Thank you so much. Very good conversation we had here. I'm sure we'll still have him on the show again to talk about the progress. But yes, ahead on TVC Breakfast, we will take a closer look at Nigeria's agro-processing export industry and its role in driving agricultural development. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.